Chris.
Hey, Joe.
Hi, I got Chris Gravel here with me once again. Chris was here, a few years ago, and she was talking about her experiences with Lyme disease. And I'd asked her that at that particular time how she felt, and she told us the types of things that she had felt in either in her emotional or physical or mental state, and they weren't that great. But she also told us at that particular time that she was looking at homeopathic people who were practitioners who were helping her out. And I was wondering, in that few years, Chris, has anything changed?
Some things have changed. A lot has not. I am still suffering from what I call meningitis type headaches, which are headaches where you feel like your brain is on fire.
Yes.
Your brain stem is in pain and your head starts to get very hot. And nothing will touch that headache except massive amounts of ibuprofen or anti-inflammatories. And these days, I don't want to take ibuprofen or anti-inflammatories. So what has changed is these days I am trying to go off all pharmaceutical drugs, and I'm trying to concentrate on naturopathic remedies and approaches to the treatment of the whole body and its response, its autoimmune response to Lyme disease and any other ailments I might have at this point in my life. By this point, the disease has caused some organ function compromise, and I'm trying to deal with that through nutritional choices. And strangely enough, the nutritional choices can get me further than pharmaceutical drugs can.
So what you're saying, clarify, that you are not as well as you were since you were here the last time, or are you a little bit better?
In some respects, I am better.
Yes.
I don't have as many migrating body pains as I once did. I don't have heart issues as prominently as I once did. I do have brain issues that are more intense, and I have a mood disorder that most Lyme patients call Lyme rage that has become unmanageable. And that has convinced me that it is time to seek the benefits of a disability. So I am requesting disability from my employer, and at this point I don't know if I will receive it or not.
Mm-hmm. So you're basically, well, you said you've got a little bit better. Can you tell me what that's attributed to, or do you know?
I think just concentrating on nutrition and the naturopathic supplements that are out there has been instrumental. At this point, there are hundreds of websites that talk about autoimmune diseases like Lyme disease and Lyme disease specifically, and about naturopathic remedies as opposed to medicinal remedies and pharmaceutical drugs. And they're very adamant about the need for organic foods and non-GMO foods, and I am trying to make that transition. It's a radical transition, and it takes some time, it takes some focus, and the one thing a Lyme disease patient normally does not have is focus. So what I need now is to simplify my life and my mind space and what I have to commit my brain cells to on a given day, so that I can remember for instance, the certain two capsules I take every morning when I get up, and the 2 that I take every night when I go to bed, and that I have done for 5 or 6 years. And it's like, those are the sorts of things I am still capable of forgetting on a daily basis. So when you have that level of disorganization in your brain, and your health relies on it, and your brain cells rely on it, and your mood relies on it, and your relationships with every important person in your life, from your boss to your husband, relies on it, it's important, and the time comes when you prioritize it, and I have had to do so. So I stopped work shortly after Christmas, and have been working on a disability application that so far is at 32 pages in length, just to explain my own situation. And my doctor now has to submit his his statement, and my employer has to submit theirs. So I am sitting waiting in limbo without an income, wondering if I will get the disability benefit into which I paid for the last 15, 16 years working for the federal government.
And so you hopefully, have you set any targets on how you will, and what I'm saying is if you are following a different regimen of, let's say, nutrition, how long do you intend to do this, or what are you looking for?
My hope, my estimate of how long it may take to cure myself, if there is a cure out there, and certain health gurus on the intranet are absolutely sure that I can regain back everything I've lost, including every gray cell, every brain cell that I have lost. They're sure that it can all come back. And let's not mince words here, I'm almost 57 years old. So if they're saying it can come back at this age, then it's not just Lyme disease. I'm mixing up my stories here. But in short, I think it'll take about a year and a half.
Okay.
At the rate that I'm going and what I've seen in terms of progress physically from the various regimens that I've been on, what my body does and does not respond to. It's a learning process, and the world around us has been developing at the same time that I have been having to experiment with my own nutrition and my own treatment. You are on your own as a Lyme disease patient. Either you can afford the services of a naturopath or you cannot, but your doctor is not your friend in this disease and in its treatment, and they are more likely to get in the way of your adequate treatment than they are to assist you.
Changing the subject, just not the subject, I'm not going to change the subject, but in your last interview, you mentioned that Miss Elizabeth May of the Green Party was putting together a conference to talk about Lyme disease and what what you could do about it. Can you tell me a little bit about what has happened since that time, and what might happen in the future in Canadian treatment of Lyme disease?
Where to start? Okay.
Where to start? Where I want to start.
Elizabeth,
what was there a conference?
Yes, there was a conference. It had a few short, what's the word? False starts, and it got delayed a significant period of time. And then when it finally took place, all of the House of Commons came together and supported the idea of the conference. The conference was held, and people came from all over the country to give witness to the conference and of their experience. And in the wake of that conference, a report was issued, and everyone in the country was asked for their response to it, and Lyme patients rejected it categorically as an inadequate response and sent the government back to the drawing board. And the government thought very hard about it and then came out with the idea that $4 million would be given in funding by the Government of Canada and the Canadian Institutes of Health Research. This $4 million would be given to Queen's University to set up a research network. And it's, if you're writing this down, it's the Canadian Lyme Disease Research Network. This initiative will be taking patients at the end of 2019. So assuming that this Liberal initiative will not be put aside by another government that may come in the election that will happen in October, there will be patients seen by this initiative. If it gets ended by this government, the next government that comes in, then there's nothing in place, and I don't know what the next government may decide to bring in. This one has decided to put $4 million into it. I would note that this government also contributed $75 million to a worldwide effort to eradicate, I think it was tuberculosis, and while I support that, I have to ask how far $4 million will go, particularly since it's over, I think, a period of 5 years. So how long do you sit there with $4 million in grants that you have the capacity to give out to researchers over 5 years?
Well, at least they say they're going to do something.
They do.
And I'm pleased with that. But unfortunately, there are all these people that are suffering from Lyme disease right across Canada. Is it getting any worse?
It's getting significantly worse, exponentially worse. It's not possible anymore to say with any credibility that the risk only goes so far as the Canadian border, as we used to say, or the risk only goes as far as the tree line. In short, let me paint a picture for you. If a migratory bird picks up a tick in Calgary or Kingston and flies north to, let's say, Fort McPherson in the Northwest Territories, or Inuvik, or Paulatuk, or somewhere along the Beaufort Sea, and an indigenous hunter goes out and harvests the bird with that tick on it, brings the bird inside the home for processing. The tick falls off the bird and crawls away into a nice warm corner of the house to lay its 2,000 to 4,000 eggs. Every member of that household and anyone who enters the household is now entering a household that has been infested by ticks. And that can happen here. It has happened here. And it can happen in the north, where a tick would not survive a Canadian winter north of 70 degrees, but it will survive long enough to lay eggs in a house if it's on a migratory bird that gets harvested. So everyone is at risk.
Everyone is at risk. Well, Chris, thanks very much for dropping in to see us and giving us a little update on what's happening in the Lyme disease world. And we all the best to this endeavor of the Canadian government. I hope something happens of it, and maybe you'll come back to talk to us about success anyway.
I'd like that.
It'd be pretty good, eh? Anyway, thanks again for dropping in, Chris.